entertainment, sports, news, and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
It's interesting to me that for whatever reason, Republicans decided early on that this was a president they were just simply not going to cooperate with. And over the past 5.5 years, we have seen demonstrations of that, where the president has reached out his hand, offered compromises that have simply not been met as they have been in the past by a Republican Party willing to do the appropriate things. And when I say the Republican Party, I'd say a faction of the Republican Party, and I'd even go further than that. I'd say a faction of the House Republican caucus that has simply said we're not going to cooperate with the president.
All right, let me get this straight. The president has reached out his hand across the aisle, willing to cooperate with the Republicans, and they've said no? And of course, the insinuation is that's because he's black, if you take it with the other remarks he made, where he sees racial animus in the opposition to both himself and to the president. We're back. The Malzberg panel is here while we try to hook up our friend C. Edmund Wright from Breitbart.com, an American thinker. We are joined by, it's been a while, Peter Morici, of course, Newsmax contributor, economist, and professor at the University of Maryland. And let me ask you, Peter, the Attorney General at it again, talking about the racial aspect of Republican opposition to both himself and the president.
Well, let's look at what he just said. He said he reached out across the aisle. When Barack Obama took office, they were in the rare situation of having 60 votes in the Senate. And as a consequence, they chose to draft the health care legislation without Republican participation, and ultimately, because of that support. If you exclude people from a major piece of social legislation, the first time in American history, from any participation, they're not going to cooperate with you. Racism? Do you remember the concept of bleaching, when they would try to move black people from a neighborhood and create a white space back in the 50s and 60s when we had de facto segregation in the North? Consider what Mr. Obama is doing with immigration and how focused his political activities are in places like Texas to cultivate Hispanic votes. It seems to me that the president has decided, because they don't vote for Democrats, there are too many white voters in America, and his immigration policy is to change that and to flip Texas in the process. I think that there is an undercurrent of racism in the dialogue and tension between Republicans and Democrats. And I believe Eric Holder, well, let me just put it to you this way. Psychologists have a phrase. It's called projection. You know, you complain most about the bad trait in someone else when it is manifested mostly in you, particularly in yourself. You know, Peter's a hothead, so I say Steve's a hothead. Well, that's Eric Holder and Barack Obama.
All right, Edmund, I know you just came a little late. We did, the immigration part of that answer was based on, started with Eric Holder's claim that there's racial animus in the opposition to both himself and the president, which he stated again over the weekend.
Well, you know, this is just, Steve, this is really funny. Didn't we have a population in 2008 and 2012 that had no problem voting for Barack Obama, who I believe at last report is the same race today that he was in both the November of 08 and 012. This and the war on women's really all they have, is the race card and the war on women card. So Eric Holder is one of the chief ways the Obama administration injects race into every single issue.
Let me take it to immigration, Edmund, as Peter brought up, and I'm glad he did. We now have reports of small, lifeless, dead children found washed up along a riverbank of the Rio Grande. You have the president now talking to the governors. And I mean, this is the revelation is of the master plan. We're going to fly these kids to every state in the union. They'll never leave. How are we ever going to keep track of them? And by the way, who knows what diseases they might have? I can't even believe what I'm seeing and hearing.
Well, you know, over the weekend, Steve, I was trying to figure out if this was a plot by Obama to bring in more Democrat voters, or a plot by ESPN to bring in more soccer fans. But, you know, America is changing, and this is an attempt to make it change really, really badly, really, really quickly. This is all coordinated. It's been coordinated since 2010 or 2011, I believe, when they started reaching out to Baptist and Catholic churches to be part of the freedom train for these people.
Peter?
Oh, I agree completely. Barack Obama campaigned on the notion of changing America. That was code for make it less white.
Yep.
There is a racial problem in Washington, and there are racists in our government. But they are particularly concentrated right now in the executive branch and in the Oval Office. Mr. Obama is so scarred by the past of black people in America that he cannot give us one America through his election. We should have black presidents, but we need black presidents who want to be president of the entire country and don't have animus, absolute animus, dislike, view as the enemy, and want to destroy people who disagree with him. And that's what we have here. You know, the president's idea of compromising is you meet him halfway and then he persuades you to come the rest of the way, or we don't have a vote. And he takes every available opportunity that he has to try to pin a problem on, oh, the Republicans don't want to do anything. Yes, they don't want to give him the ability to import as many Hispanic voters as suits his purpose without knowledge that he's going to do something about the border. I mean, essentially, what Mr. Obama wants to do is to naturalize Hispanics as quickly as possible to get them voting for Democrats. This is a race situation. Mr. Holder is right, but they're basically throwing these charges around and leaving folks like us with not much voice as a way of putting us on the defensive. I've had enough. For example, my university specifically has programs in place to advantage the advancement of women into administration. Okay, there aren't enough women administrators, except for the fact that an Asian American is president and a woman is provost. But you know, my university gives more degrees to women than men. So I think we should have programs to ensure that half the degrees are given to men. Now, no one's in favor of that, but nationwide, American universities give 60% of their diplomas to women. Now, if there was ever gender bias, using the matrix and the yardsticks that the EEOC uses, that's one, and that's a very significant thing. I mean, suppose that in a town with people that had the same socioeconomic characteristics, 40% of the blacks went on to college and graduated, and 60% of the whites with the same economic statistics. We'd say something's wrong. Well, there's surely something wrong.
All right, Peter, stay where you are. Guys, stay where you are. We're coming back, and we'll talk about the Middle East and Sergeant Bergdahl returning to duty. Yes, I said returning to duty. Coming up on part 2 of the Malzberg panel. Don't go away.